So, welcome to finally a channel update video, which I've been saying I would do for quite a while, but to be honest with you, with the recording ahead of time that I've been doing, to be honest with you, this it may also appear at the end of videos that are still yet to be published on my channel. But it has been something that's been a while in the making, because as I've been fairly continuously saying, I didn't really know how my schedule would morph when the university term started back up again, but I have a much clearer idea about it now, to the point where even though I don't have the full picture as of yet, I can still give a good enough timetable of what's going to be happening between now and February. So the shortened midterm of my channel has basically been nailed down, and that is that the schedule will mostly, at the very least, be staying the same, in the sense that I intend to have 2 videos and at least 2 streams per week. There are possible changes to exactly when the streams could be relative to when they've been at the moment, because as of right now, of course, I'm sure that most of you who are watching this video will be aware that I have been streaming starting at about 1:30 GMT time on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and going for an average of about 3 to 3¼ hours, doing divide and conquer campaigns, which have been fun, if not quite frustrating. I feel as though the game's RNG has really hampered me in many ways there, but it has been fun nonetheless. A campaign, I think, is much better when there's a bit of struggle added into it anyway, even if it doesn't come off that way when I'm actually playing it. When you have time to reflect on it, it definitely is a little bit more interesting and entertaining that way. But regardless, there could be a few changes to that, because I am going to, in the near future at the very least, and this is the sort of thing which will likely have already been posted up on my community tab on the YouTube site, where I will basically one of the messages, like normally that's the way that I sort of communicate that streams are going to happen, and I am going to try and do one in the evening GMT time, which should be a little bit more friendly to many people. Even people who are further east should still be able to tune in and watch it, hopefully. The only people that will probably be put out massively by an evening GMT stream would probably be people in Australia and New Zealand, which is unfortunate, but it's also kind of unavoidable if I want to toy with the idea of doing an evening stream instead. So depending on how that works, I have sort of said in the past the reason I haven't done that is because the internet can be a little bit congested in the evening, and obviously with streams you want that to be as clear as possible. But having said that, with single player streams at the very least, I've never had any issues with it. The only issue that I did have one time was on YouTube's end, not mine. So I think actually it should probably be fine to do evening streams as long as I sort of pick and choose my days wisely. Ergo, probably not the weekends, but then that hasn't been the case up until now anyway. So we'll see how that goes, but ultimately, at the base, there will still be 2 pre-recorded videos a week. That's the intent anyway, to try and keep that going as long as I have a big enough supply of replays to keep that going. And at least 2 streams per week. Possibly here and there we could add a third, depending on what happens, because some weeks I will actually have a relatively clear schedule, I think. But yeah, that's what's going to be the plan going forwards. And the streams, again, and the content of the pre-recorded videos, mostly going to be staying the same, but we'll get onto that later in the video, to be honest with you, because right now I just want to talk about the schedule and really nail a few things down. There are some exceptions to that. So in December, there is the first week of December essentially is going to be busy enough to the point where probably there won't be any streams happening, but that is the only week where I think we're going to forego streams entirely, based on what I know, because there are sort of several days, and it's to the point really where the schedule is so congested that it's really not worth the hassle of trying to sort of factor in streams in and around all the stuff that's happening there. So the first week in December is probably the only real exception to the rule where streams probably won't be a thing, but hopefully if I have enough videos on the backlog at that point, I can just replace them with a couple of pre-record videos anyway. So in terms of sheer amount of content, there should still be the same going up on the channel, but we shall see. That's the plan. Also, I guess technically an exception is probably when I release this channel update, because I think that it's going to coincide with the day that I'm doing boat work when this video actually releases. So bearing that in mind, I think it would have been a day where I normally would have been streaming. So instead of a stream, there's this channel update, which obviously is not really the same kind of content, but I think it is important to sort of make sure that we keep the information clear as well. So while it may not be like actual sort of regular content, at least something is here, even if it's not quite what people were expecting. So at the very least, I intend for there to be no actual gaps. The form of the content, of course, may morph and change depending on what works and what doesn't, but I'm also open for feedback on that. When the evening streams happen, we'll see how people respond to that. Obviously, multiplayer streams are one of the things which people have asked about, and that is something that I'm still holding off on, to be honest with you, because that's an area where I don't want to be the reason why a lot of these larger scenario games fail because I'm trying to stream them. And I'm not confident enough in my internet to be able to do that. I don't think people quite appreciate sometimes anyone who's not really gotten involved with the community and are just sort of here to watch it as a spectacle. A lot of work goes in. I mean, especially Eclipse has realised this of late, where a lot of work goes into wrangling 8 people with a good enough sort of setup and internet connection to be able to play this under normal circumstances, and even then there's no guarantee someone won't crash, because Medieval 2 is a rather fickle beast when it's being pushed as hard as it is now by the submods of varying types. And I don't want to be the reason why these lobbies fail because I'm trying to stream it, to be brutally honest. And even if that's something that people do want to see, it's not going to be something that I feel confident on doing on my current internet. Now that may change as we move into 2021, but that will be a matter, I think, for a channel update in the future when I know what's going to be happening longer term beyond February. But for the time being, the streams will be kept largely to single player. If I do multiplayer streams, they will be on a smaller scale, so it is important to bear that in mind. But that is something that I have been thinking of as well. As for sort of special stuff, we'll see. I mean, Christmas and New Year are coming up, and being that we are in the year of COVID, I'm not entirely sure that much that's exciting is going to be happening around those times. So we'll play that by ear. Might do something over the Christmas and New Year period, streaming or content-wise. But that's the sort of thing which, once again, I would be looking for feedback on, because there's no sense in me just ploughing ahead with something that no one wants after all. So we will wait and see on that. I would also say as well that Halloween is coming up, but I'm not going to be doing anything just on my own Halloween-wise. But I will be joining in, hopefully, with some of the people from the Silmarillion Discord, and joining in with some Halloween-themed stuff that they have got going on. So might be seeing a few things from that on my channel, but even if they're not on mine, I'm sure you'll see them elsewhere, such as on JMonster's channel. So keep an eye out for that as well. So that's sort of more special events stuff. But yeah, this basically, the status quo that I will be maintaining will be the case until mid to late February, like I've said, after which I'm not really sure what's going to be happening. And so I'm not really sure how it will impact, whatever it is, will impact the schedule. I'll probably know in the new year. So I would expect another channel update video following on from this in probably the middle of January, I would say, when I've got a clearer idea of what's actually going to be happening. Because to be honest with you, that, whatever the impact that will have, is likely to be far more than the start of the university term like this, because, as is quite clear, the start of the university term, as it turns out, is not actually going to impact my channel all that much. You might see a few differences to what's become my regular schedule here and there, but to be honest with you, for the most part, I am going to be able to keep the amount of content the same, even if a few days here and there have to be juggled around to fit around the timetabled schedule that is starting to take shape. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say really with regards to that. I'm sure that's good news for most people, to be fair, because it means that nothing really is going to be changing, at least for the time being. So yeah, that's good. As with regards to side topics, so one thing, this will impact the streams but not the pre-records, is I have actually loaned out my webcam at this point on a temporary basis, for at least, to my brother, who needs it to do some of his college work, to sort of keep in touch, obviously, because they are also on lockdown essentially, and because he had to travel to go up to do sort of his day release days, he is now using stuff like Zoom as well. So I have loaned out my webcam to him, so at least temporarily the face camera is likely to be gone, unless I manage to scrounge a replacement from someone, but I would say that's quite unlikely. So at least for probably the next couple of weeks as of this video, I am going to be without my webcam. But I don't really think, like, again, I don't really think it adds too much to a stream anyway. It's just because people have requested it in the past, I ended up doing it anyway. I do intend for it to return, but on a temporary basis at the very least, that will be gone. As far as the content on the channel goes, Reforged, Silmarillion, Divide and Conquer is still the plan for now. There is also something else that I wanted to do, actually, just a sort of one and done kind of video, which is going to be on the Amazon series for Lord of the Rings. Because, as I was saying in a recent stream, I have actually been thinking about it, and I think by mid-November, maybe when a little bit more information has come out, I think I will have... I've got things that I would like to say about it, to be honest with you. And it is relevant to my channel, after all, seeing as the vast, vast majority of content I put up on my channel has been related to Tolkien's work, albeit indirectly with the Total War series. So I think I will talk about that, to be honest with you, because... I think it's quite likely that you're going to see quite a lot of unnuanced opinions about it, in the sense that it's either going to be completely positive coverage of it or completely negative, depending on who you're getting your information from. And I do think there are pretty substantial reasons to argue both ways, and I think it's fairly unlikely that most people are going to go that way. They're going to try and be a bit sensationalist and go for the extreme one way or the other. And I think that there's a lot that can be said, I think, for the Amazon series, both positively and negatively, and I would like to do that, and can probably expect that to be one of the pre-recorded videos that surfaces probably in late November, I would say. So that's going to be something else which I just sort of fold into the regular schedule as well. As far as branching out from the Reforged, Silmarillion, and Divide and Conquer triumvirate that my channel now subsists on, I am sort of waiting for when a substantial Bannerlord mod overhaul for the base game comes out that I can also get my teeth into. Not necessarily Kingdoms of Arda, because that's a long way off before we even start to see the beginnings of the Kingdoms of Arda be playable, I think. But I'm just talking about something along the lines of an early version of like what the Florist mod was for Warband. I think that would be good, because to be honest with you, those few Bannerlord videos I did was kind of a bit rough and ready as far as videos go, but they actually did quite well. So maybe that is a potential way to branch out, and sort of keeping with the theme of me covering what is mainly modded work, I feel as though that could be a possible avenue for expansion as well. And Bannerlord's a lot of fun, so I feel as though there's enough crossover in what I do at the moment and that for it to be a sort of natural path of expansion. Of course, it's also with one eye on Kingdoms of Arda, so that when that does finally start to filter through in the far future, maybe we can start covering a bit of that as well. But for the time being, of course, the first mod tools have only just come out for Bannerlord, so it's more sort of the thing to keep an eye on. I wouldn't really expect that until next year, by which point my channel probably would have had to change substantially in terms of how I deliver the content anyway, or at least the amounts and sort of when and how I organise myself. But that is still the sort of thing I do intend to do, just to let people know here and now. I'm in the sort of early stages of thinking about that. And the final side topic I'd like to cover here is Patreon and the incentives that I could offer, because I do have Patreon now, but I'm not really sure how I can make it, what I can do with it essentially, because as it is at the moment, I sort of said it's sort of like how you like tip a waiter essentially for doing a good job. That's all I can really think to do with it, to be honest with you, because you can either do Patreon rewards that are fairly insubstantial, and a lot of that comes down to sort of giving people like roles on Discord or something like that. And I, of course, don't have my own Discord for reasons that I've gone into in the past. Or you can go too far the other way and make the incentives too substantial to the point where I think if you're offering sort of exclusive content to Patreon viewers, in certain situations it can work out just fine. I think for my channel and the amount of workload I can put into it, I think it would be a bad idea though. So I am actually, I'll throw that over to you and basically to anyone who's already backed me on Patreon, of which I think there are 2 at the time of this. I would be sort of looking for feedback on what you think I could do there. I wouldn't be like making exclusive content though, in terms of videos or stuff like that, because again, I don't really believe in that. That's like sort of pay to view content, and I don't really want that to become a thing on my channel. I want everyone to be able to access everything I do at all times. And the other thing is I'm not going to just create a Discord just for just purely for either purely for Patreon users or just for everyone, because to be brutally honest, I don't have the time in the day to sort of put into my own Discord to keep it afloat and keep it relevant, essentially. That's part of the reason why I haven't done it, and also partly because I don't want to split the community that has sprung up around these submods any further than it already is. I do think that is a problem which I could go into, to be fair. I won't do it here because this is a channel update sort of specifically relating to my channel more so than the various submods and all of that stuff, but considering the amount of YouTuber Discords and clan Discords and other Discords that sort of exist alongside the main ones, I do think the community is fragmented too far to the point where it is actually fairly difficult to get things up and running. I think Silmarillion, because it's in the earlier stages, is probably less affected by that, but Reforged most certainly is. But that's a whole different matter, to be fair. So yeah, Patreon incentives to anyone who's backing me on Patreon. Give me some ideas, and I'll see what I can do. As long as it's nothing that is what I've already mentioned, it's definitely the sort of thing that I could take a bit of a look at, because I'm not going to really publicise my Patreon all that much, to be honest with you, because again, it's the sort of thing which it's going to be there in every video description. If it's the sort of thing you want to get involved with, it's there just to sort of give me a bit of a boost. But if you don't, that's perfectly fine as well. Like, again, I'm not making a big deal of it, because I think it's the sort of thing you should only really be making a big deal of if you intend to make it your full-time employment. And as of the moment, unless something very drastic changes, that is very unlikely to be the case for me moving forward. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. Bit of a ramble there, but this has been something which I've sort of wanted to sort of clear up for a little while. I wanted to sort of really nail down the schedule in everyone's minds, and I guess in many ways I could have just had this video be 10 seconds long and go, hey guys, nothing's really changing until February, because that is going to be the case. And yeah, as for moving forward, based on when this is likely to release, there's going to be a stream probably either preceding or following this, depending on which day exactly I'm going out on the boat next week. Should give you an idea of when I actually recorded this. And there will, of course, be videos following on from that as well. I think a couple of Reforged battles, one large-scale siege on Umbar, I know is probably going to be the next pre-recorded video that comes after this. And yeah, I think that's just about right, considering I've recorded pretty far ahead of time, all the way to the 16th of November at this point. It's a little bit difficult to sort of puzzle through that in my head and keep track of all the videos that I've done so far and exactly where they are, but no matter. I think I've rambled enough for now. So yeah, I hope you found this somewhat informative, and I hope you'll join me for whatever is next.